Joining us now for the second time on Sports Talk ATL. After a pretty stellar appearance the first time, Mark Zinno, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, stellar is a wide-ranging term that many people can interpret the way they want, but I appreciate you guys having me back.
Yeah, so the last time we were talking, it was all about the Bill Belichick, the hiring. What was your initial reaction when Adam Schefter's tweet actually popped up? Because that's how I saw it. I was literally just scrolling through, it just pops up, and my jaw hit the floor. Not necessarily because I thought it was a bad hire, but just I did not think that Arthur Smith and Rich McKay would basically admit the last 3 years were a waste, go back to Raheem Morris, pass over Bill Belichick. All of it just kind of hit me, and I was like, whoa.
I mean, look, there's nothing I'm about to say is any sort of indictment or, judgment on Raheem Morris as a coach. By all accounts, Ra's a great coach, and everybody seems to like him. Everybody seems to think he's a great coach. Does that mean he'll win here? I don't know the answer to that yet. I mean, as I said repeatedly last time I was here, if you don't get the quarterback right, guess what? You're going to struggle. So this isn't anything about Raheem Morris. My issue has been with the process. My issue has been with the process the entire time. Hence why we went to the Arthur Smith fired press conference. I was probing and asking continual questions about who the hell makes decisions around here and what is the decision-making process so I can understand and better try to at least, figure out how decisions are made. And, it's incredibly telling to me that the press release that came out with Raheem Morris, after announcing Raheem Morris as the hire, the second line of the press release read that both Terry Fontenot and Raheem Morris will report to Arthur Blank directly. Not a recap of his past, not a recap of his time in Atlanta, not anything about what he accomplished in LA prior to being hired here. That was the second line of the press conference, of the press release, rather. And it's just like, what dimension have we moved into here where that becomes the second most important piece of news when hiring a new coach, and then buried at the very bottom, the reiteration of the fact that Rich McKay is no longer part of day-to-day operations of football, which is something we were told several years ago, which is something we were untold at the press conference, that he was back in day-to-day operations. Now he's back out again. I mean, again, what is the process here, and how are decisions made? Because now, for the second time in a 3-year span, from the outside looking in, the owner has injected himself into a decision, okay, and tried to make it go his way, and it's gone horribly sideways. The first time with Deshaun Watson, now with Bill Belichick. And look, for a guy and an organization that preaches so much about collaboration, decisions, we collaborate, it's a whole group of people, it's always a group of people together. The fact that Arthur Blank met with Bill Belichick on a boat by himself, which, again, wasn't supposed to get out, but it did, so we all have that information now, is very telling that he circumvented the collaborative process. And, oh, by the way, he has a right to do all this. He's the owner. Do whatever the hell you want. Guys, I say this repeatedly. What's the point of having FU money if you never tell anybody, FU, I'm doing what I want, right? So when you're the guy, you're the guy. He can do whatever he wants. That's fine. But that doesn't mean I can't critique the process. So I say all that because, again, he circumvented this collaborative process to meet with him on a boat. And at that point in time is, nope, you can't interview our assistants. Nope, you can't interview our assistants. We're denying you guys access. Met with him on the boat. Oh, now you can take our assistants. We don't care. Then we had the second interview with everybody, la-di-da-di everybody, right? And everybody thought after the second interview it was a fait accompli that Bill Belichick was getting hired because you connected all those dots. Okay, Belichick's going to bring in his own staff, doesn't need any of the assistants. This is what it all is. And then we waited, and we waited, and we waited, and we waited. And in reality, Bill Belichick is one of the coaches you could have hired because he is not under contract. He was a free agent. He was let go by the Patriots, right? So there was no contract that they had to circumvent. It's only guys who are under contract you couldn't interview till that Monday, January 22nd. So they could have hired him at any time, and they didn't. Now, I understand they had to satisfy the Rooney Rule, and some of the guys that they were interviewing were already under contract, so they had to wait. But again, if he didn't get hired by that Tuesday or that Wednesday, you were like, whoa, something's up here. Something's up. And that's when when it came out, I kind of tweeted, it looked like the idea that Arthur Blank and Rich McKay couldn't come to an agreement about how to get Bill Belichick in this whole thing. I don't know why they keep trying to circumvent that Rich McKay is not part of this process. We all know that he is. Like, you can't keep telling, your kids that there's no junk food in the cabinet, but they continually see you eating cookies. Like, it's not going to go over well, And so I whatever the decision-making process was, all I know is this. for a guy who openly lusted after Bill Belichick the way he did, for it not to go down that way, tells us that, as other people reported, more, notable and verifiable people than me, internal persuasion. Well, who's the internal persuasion? It's the freaking boss. Nobody internally persuaded him to go meet with Bill Belichick on the boat. He did it on his own. So either he does things on his own or he's internally persuaded by whom? His right-hand man. Because it's weird to me, again, let's put this all back together. It's weird to me that the guy whose nuts you clipped in the press conference firing Arthur Smith, Terry Fontenot, who wasn't important enough to be there, had that much influence on the owner to make him do something different. And again, not a shot at Terry. I love Terry. I think the world of him. I think he's an excellent, player personnel and scout. I think he would be a great GM if he had the GM authority that most GMs have, but he doesn't. Not a reflection on him. I think the world of him, and I'll tell him to his face when I see him. And oh, by the way, you want to know the ultimate slap in the face to everybody, and the slap in the face of everybody's intelligence, guys, is this. Arthur Smith got fired. It was Arthur Blank and Rich McKay. We all wondered where Terry Fontenot is. How much do you want to bet me at the hiring press conference on Monday for Raheem Morris? It's Arthur Blank and Terry Fontenot, and Rich McKay is now not in the room because under the guise of Rich McKay doesn't work in football operations anymore.
Yeah, they're treating us like we're dumb. I mean, I don't know. Some fans are like, they were rejoicing on social media about that little clipping you're talking about. And me and Chase are sitting here texting each other and asking, does anybody actually believe this? Are you guys dumb enough to actually believe this? We've done this same song and dance. And me and Chase got ridiculed on YouTube for kind of bashing the Raheem Morris hire. And no, it feels like nobody can compartmentalize the fact that the process was incredibly flawed. It was an absolute clown show. We were the one team who was constantly in headlines for all the wrong reasons, only to end up with a guy in Raheem Morris that we could have had 3 years ago. Now, with that being said, I think the 3 years he spent in Los Angeles under Sean McVay were so much more valuable than any stop before then. So I do want to say he's probably a different guy today. You'd be a fool to think he isn't a different guy today than he was 3 years ago in that 2021 interview. But the fact remains that Arthur Blank and Rich McKay were treating us like we're dumb, like we don't know exactly what's going on. And what the worst part about it is, it worked to a certain extent, at least on social media.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm with you. For me, the process is at best discombobulated. At worst, it's utter chaos, and they're shooting from the hip on everything. So that's my issue with the whole thing. It's not about Raheem.
I don't remember exactly who said it, but somebody came out. Oh, it was Zach Klein. Zach Klein, Atlanta beat writer, basically came out and said on a podcast that Arthur Blank, was panicking about it. And I don't know how true that was, but I don't think it's, excuse me, I'm blanking on the word, a coincidence, that as soon as the Raheem Morris hire was made, that Brett Ukes or whoever it was came out on Twitter and basically said he was doing PR work, that Arthur Blank wasn't panicking. If you have to address it, like you're saying, Mark, that if they have to address it, we're probably on the right track.
No, look, and Brett is an ultimate PR professional. He's really good at his job, and he knows, how to present information to the public. That said, again, I'm not saying anything per se he said is untrue. My eyes tell me different. And it's the exact words I said to Arthur Blank and Rich McKay in the press conference. Actions have to match words, and they don't. And that's a problem for me, And so when the actions don't match the words, and then you have to put it in a press release.
Yeah,
that to me, it's just like, guys, like, did it even need to be said? Like, you told us this before, and then he got back in somehow. So, like, either fix the trap door or just leave the guy inside. I don't understand what the process is.
I don't know how anybody believes anything that the Falcons have said for the last 10, 15 years. I mean, they've been so poorly run. Arthur Blank's so involved. Rich McKay's at the press conference. Everyone gets pissed about the press. The thing is, their reactions to like what people are saying on Twitter is almost even more embarrassing than anything. I think that's the most embarrassing part. Like, they shouldn't be really concerned about what we think. We're fans. We're idiots. Now we might be smarter than this group of guys, but they shouldn't be thinking that. Because we don't really know what should be going on and what decisions should be made. And the fact that they're swayed by people that might be saying, our fans don't think Bill Belichick's a good head coach. Our fans don't think this, but yada, yada, yada. I think that's the most embarrassing part, is that they're obviously being reactionary to what other people are saying. And that's absolutely crazy to me. Coming up after the break, we will continue this conversation. I want to get into the good sides of Raheem Morris, though.